I know you saw Cork yesterday, Fintan, and you're a proud Cork man. My question would have been coming into the game was, they had a brilliant second half performance against Limerick. Can they back it up and then back it up again? And they were 1-9 to 1-4 down yesterday. Looked in a small bit of trouble and turned things around fairly spectacularly. We're back level at half time, 2-3 to no score. Then in the opening 2 to 3 minutes of the second half, and Oisin Salmon gets the second yellow, and they were kind of coasting thereafter. Like, considering they're missing Hoggy, Damien Cahalane, another experienced player, both of them were ruled out before the start, and a couple of new faces stand up. I'd say you're fairly enthused by it.
Yeah, I think it was some good stuff in it. Particularly I would say how clinical they were after halftime in that 5-minute patch. Probably not something you'd associate with them in terms of when they get a boost of, team gets man sent off, you get a couple of scores, and then they really kind of went for the kill a bit. It felt, even the fact that looked to me like they're trying to manufacture goals a bit, which is a difference as opposed to the chances coming your way and going for them. I mean, even last week, the first goal, Dalton maybe has the chance to put the ball over the bar, but solos it in, gives it into Robbie O'Flynn, it's a goal. Yesterday, similar story, he paves the way for Lehan. His first goal, even Lehan's second goal, he he was unchallenged, but you wouldn't have always seen this and associated with them. Instead of tapping the ball over the bar from 40 yards and taking a handy point, he kind of went in for the kill, and that probably settled it. I think that third goal for the game. Okay, I know that they got a fourth later on, and Galway came back at them with a couple of goals, which probably heartened Henry Shefflin. But look, I think probably even more so than Cahill, similar to Cahill in a way, it is very interesting to just look that it's Pat Ryan, because of the success he had with the 20s and 21s. It's how many of these he's going to bring through, and that's what everyone's looking at. And can certain guys kind of stake a claim? And the interesting thing is that some guys that were kind of on the fringes before, pre-season or whatever, that they're getting kind of an extended run now. Like Conor Callaghan, cornerback, is probably one. One Downey getting fullback for 2 games. Joyce at 6 probably isn't a surprise. I think he's been earmarked with a long, long way out. And he's really, really kind of taken to the field. Looks kind of almost bigger, kind of even more forceful in the position now. And then I suppose up front, like Sean Toomey's been on the panel with a while. Probably hasn't got an extended run at it, but obviously he's been doing well for UCC at Fitzgibbon, well for his club. Dalton then is probably the interesting one. Wouldn't have worked with Ryan before. Like, he was a goalkeeper at minor level in 15. He's from the same vintage, basically the same age group as Coleman at Fitzgibbon. Then a forward at 21. He came off the bench in the 2021 against Kilkenny and Limerick, and then had a foot injury after that, got in club championship. Was kind of rehabbing it last year, and then kind of didn't really get brought back onto the panel as the season kind of unfolded. Like his skill and his hurling and his striking is unquestioned. I suppose the question mark is the kind of mobility issue and the movement issue, but he definitely looked really, really hungry for it yesterday. So it's kind of a positive sign that way. The question is, I suppose, at Salt Hill on a February day, I don't know what it was like. You were there now, but like on the pitch, it looked like a dead pitch, or on TV,
it was. It was cut up pretty bad, yeah.
So you just kind of further down the line, but definitely there was some very kind of positive signs for him in terms of kind of what he was able to bring to the team. And I thought in particular the way he created the goal. I mean, like it wouldn't be something you'd always. Like, he's an absolute unbelievable finisher for his club, and he would have been at underage, but it's kind of seen that extra step of it. And then Lehan, it probably just strikes me as one that probably wasn't very influential in last week's game and then gets a point near the end. But the fact that Ryan left him on for the whole game, is there a sense of, similar to Michael Breen with Tipperary, is it like, right, listen, Conor, you're going to get the spring at number 11, and, you're going to get a chance to work your way into the game and all that, and I mean, again, he's a guy that Ryan wouldn't have worked with, but Ryan would have been manager of SARS, and he would have kind of seen firsthand what Lehan kind of had to offer, and there does seem to be a sense that they're kind of investing kind of faith and trust in him, and he gets a couple of goals that kind of rewards him, so different things like that are kind of producing him. But at Cork have a lot of guys, I think, coming through at a similar kind of a level, and I guess it's how many a lot of guys with potential. You could definitely see a lot of them in a few years becoming established county seniors, but I guess it's how many can make the really kind of a rapid kind of a step up. And like O'Callaghan 2, Downey at 3, and like Roach at midfield are probably the 3 that are kind of, putting their hand up so far in the first 2 games. But it'll be interesting to see how much they can kind of cement their places over the next few weeks, or even months. Like, Fitzgibbon has to come back into that team from a shoulder injury. We think Coleman is going to be back at some stage. It doesn't look like he's ruled out for the year. Tim O'Mahony, all these established guys, when they come back in, what way the makeup of the team is going to be.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. There's a lot of big names to come back there, as you say. Pat Ryan just had a couple of comments actually on both Conor Lehane and Declan Dalton. He just said, if you look at Conor Lehane, he wasn't at his best last week against Limerick, but he tried like a dog. He scored 2-3 today, and we're just delighted with the attitude and character that our lads are given. Declan fought fierce hard. He's a fierce threat. He can score from anywhere. He's a great striker of the ball. The one thing he's doing, he's working fierce hard for us at the moment. He's brought that to his game. He's got himself in fantastic shape. Obviously, he was left off the panel last year, and he's a bit of a point to prove as well. Dalton striking, Fintan, it's a little bit unorthodox in a way, and I wonder, is it because he's a bigger man maybe who wouldn't have had as much time on the ball maybe as other players? He almost leans away when he's striking. He like buys himself an extra half second not to be blocked down. Now he was blocked down by Grode McInerney, one effort at the end, but he leans back a small bit and he's
on the back foot shot thing,
and a really economical striking. He hit 6 from play yesterday. As you say, the setup for Lehane's goal was like perfect. It was not to Lehane, it was to where Lehane was going to be. He didn't even have to check stride or anything like that. Now, from a Galway point of view, I'd say Henry Shefflin was looking at some of it through his hands. Like Lehane walked through at one stage, Toomey walked through at the end. I think Joseph Cooney was close by, and like he didn't meet him until the ball was in the net. From Shefflin's point of view, I know he's down. He's not his regular 3 in Dahi Burke, but he'd be disappointed enough at how porous they were at times. And I was even looking at it from the press box. Like Cork totally dragged out the Galway half back line. They had them out around the middle of the field, and it was just a matter of ball over the top, a nice ball into the forwards. And it was a tough day for Grode McInerney and the lads inside, and they were kind of, to me, like they were kind of hung out to dry now. But Shefflin would definitely be like, that wouldn't be like he played in the Kilkenny team where 5, 6 and 7 stood their ground nearly no matter what. So I'm sure that's something he'd be looking to address.
Yeah, they were like, especially because it looked like such a good start. When you had like Nyland, Cooney, and McManus all showing up well in attack, and then they get a goal. And as you said, I think it was a 1-9 to 1-4 at one stage. Kind of going in at half time, probably kind of pretty disappointed, I'd say, with a little bit of a slump before the break and how that game has suddenly become closer. And then obviously it just seemed to cave in for them in 10 or 15 minutes, like, and they were really, really kind of punished with the concession of the goals and kind of brought it back. Like at one stage, I did think, you were looking at it, was it 9 points in it? You were thinking they're a man down. This could be an absolute hiding that they're going to suffer here. But in fairness to them, they did bring it back. With kind of further goals from McManus and Concannon, and obviously the penalty at the end, so that was kind of heartening. Like the one thing I wonder, like these actually I think are the two sides that have the most players involved with Fitzgibbon at the moment. Like the University of Galway team, I think is 14 Galway lads. A lot of them either starting or kind of involved on the fringes of the Galway panel, and similarly, some of them would have been involved with. So all these colleges' names are changing now, so I can't. Whatever.
Disaster! That's driving me bonkers. I'm calling them the old LIT or the old Cardiff.
No, I was just about to say the artists formerly known as GMIT were playing their league. I think Keenan Fahy was playing for them, for example. So I think there might be an element of that. I think he and Kevin Cooney were involved. I think he would have been conscious of that, but I think he'd be hardened by kind of the finish to the game. You still have a lot of recognisable names in the starting team, Monaghan, Whelan, Flynn, as you said, the half back lines, Mannion, Cooney, Morrissey. There's no one kind of really new and kind of fresh there, but I think it was the kind of space, and Cork were a little bit more direct. Did you think that? Like there was kind of a bit more control was being but
clever directness, if you get me, as in trying to drag that Galway half back line out and then put the ball in rather than just being direct for the sake of being direct,
Yeah, like they got to a certain point and then it was kind of going, The one thing I do notice is that Joyce is a bit of a throwback with that. Like he does like to.
Oh yeah.
At times, At times, like there was a couple of stages. I think it was one of the preseason games of that. A little bit kind of like open the shoulders from centre back and go for the point opportunity. But yesterday, I just kind of noticed it's a bit more kind of like long direct deliveries, and it is the angled diagonals. I mean, it is the Limerick template. The two of them kind of going together to the one corner, and then they kind of feed off each other. The Gallan and Flanagan kind of movement, the way that works, is the kind of trying to kind of ape that, But probably disappointing from Galway with that defensively, I'd say. more so than anything, as opposed to, and I've also been heartened with the kind of fight after. I think he was kind of positive, was he, with Burke afterwards, that he is kind of on the comeback trail, and you know, you kind of won't be seeing him before too long. St. Thomas wise, I imagine a couple more of them coming back into the fray. Was that the kind of vibe you were getting after?
Yeah, over the next couple of weeks, Fintan Burke, Dahi Burke, Conor Cooney. Yeah, there was lots of recognisable faces there yesterday, but I suppose lots of faces that kind of weren't there as well, familiar enough faces. I think Martin McManus is one player that stood out really well. And for an inside forward, kind of like Aaron Gillane, he actually has a paw on him. He made a brilliant catch for Cooney's goal. I think he rode a tackle and then put a lovely pass inside from. He ended up at 1-3, kind of carried his Loughrea form into the county, which is hugely encouraging, I'd say, from Shefflin's point of view, when maybe not too many lads stood up the other day. Just the